fashion, you hear about trying to stop them at the border, which we also need to do. There's one of my ideas about how to address the problem. So, now, I guess the final thing I'd add with respect to illegal immigration is there's a diplomatic component to this too. We need to have the Mexican government and other Latin American governments opening up their own economies, growing their own jobs, so that there's not that same economic incentive for people to leave the country and find jobs here.
Todd, what are your thoughts on anchor babies and the 14th Amendment?
The question was about anchor babies and the 14th Amendment. Separate questions here? Or
they kind of run hand in hand, I think.
And how do they run hand in hand?
Well, it's my understanding that America, our government, is being misled that babies of foreign nationals born in America, mostly in California, are automatic citizens under the 14th Amendment.
Yeah. That has been the interpretation by judges. That's a good question of constitutional law, I have to say, and probably go research it later on since you've asked it. And this is one of the things that, frankly, members of Congress do, is when they get questions like this, is they go back and take a look at it. I know this has created some real difficulties for those who are trying to address the illegal immigrant population. When you come to this country illegally, you have children, they grow up in the school system, they regard themselves as Americans in a sense. How do you deal with that population? And I certainly acknowledge it's a thorny and difficult issue. And but I will say that though I'm sympathetic to that and regard it as a thorny and difficult issue, if it's that sympathy that informs judges' interpretation of the Constitution, that's wrong. We should amend the Constitution if Congress believes that somehow these people ought to be regarded as American citizens, right? So I have a pretty hard-headed view of how a person ought to be interpreting the Constitution. And I'm what they call a strict constructionist. And so it may not be an entirely on-point response to you, sir, but it's at least approaching what you were asking. It's about how I read the Constitution. Yes.
If I might add,
yes,
went on to item 2.
Yeah.
Anchor babies is, at the last report, there were over 300,000 of these anchor babies each year, which provide access to government benefits for many foreign nationals.
I'll tell you candidly, I've been at this for 16 months now, around southern Indiana. First question I'd ever gotten about anchor babies. So the fact that you told me that you came from California and then came here now makes sense, because that's an issue talked about more in California, in Florida to some extent, definitely in Texas and Arizona. So, but nonetheless, I will be asked to deal with national level issues, and it's still take your question seriously. So, thank you.
Todd, you seem like a fine young man with good ideas and values, and I was wondering, can you go to Washington and keep those values, or will you get caught up in the rhetoric there and let them change you the same as many other politicians are changed? Washington's a different place.
How are you going to keep from losing your way?
Are you going to lose your soul when you go there?
Right.
And get caught up in all so many politicians do that. They leave here with good ideas, good values, want to change, and I'm all for that. But when they get up there, they forget what they stand for, where they came from, the promises they made. I want to know, can you go there and keep those values, or will you sell your soul like others do?
It's a question I get about every time I speak before an audience and take questions. And it's a great question, because it's something I always wonder. And I'm not sure I've ever heard a 100% satisfying answer from anyone. But I So let me give it my best shot here, as I always do, and I think you'll be comfortable with my response. First, I'd say we need to elect people to Congress who have done things in their life that suggest they're people of character. All right? I think I've spent most of my younger life and adult life in worthy endeavors. So let you be the judge of that, certainly. But so I look at my background. You know, the 10 years I spent in the military and serving others, my current service on the board of a pro-life ministry, and as a deputy prosecutor down in Orange County. You know, these may or may not be compelling things to you, but I think for many people to say, all right, those are probably worthy endeavors. The second thing what I like to see among candidates are candidates who have something to fall back on. In other words, I'm not going to be so dependent upon the title Member of Congress, Representative, that Congressman, that I will be tempted to vote a way that violates my own moral code, my values, my promises to potential constituents. So that's the second thing I'd say. Finally, and this might not matter to many people, but I have a faith. I think that grounds me to some extent. I do believe in causes greater than myself. You don't have to have, many would argue, a faith to believe in causes greater than yourself. But that's one of the things that drives me. And then finally, and I don't really say this tongue-in-cheek, it's kind of funny, I guess, but if you've met my wife, Jenny, she also helps keep me straight and narrow. She's my partner in life, and she's a strong personality. And were I to get too big for my britches and lose my way a bit, you better bet Jenny Tucker Young would help kind of rein me in a little bit. So those are some different answers. And then finally, I'm pretty confident about this. I'm aware of the temptations. I'm aware that good people go there, they lose their way. Sometimes they find their way back. But I invite people that if I get off track and they're uncomfortable with my leadership, please send me home. You know, my life is probably better now and will be better should I remain here in southern Indiana than if I go to Washington. But I'm involved in this because I think it's an incredibly important period of time for our country, and I think I have something to offer. Did I kind of get... Thank you. Larry.
Todd, with the advent of all the rogue nations, North Korea, Iran, many others actually, and their development of nuclear weapons, their development of multi-stage intercontinental missiles, what do you think of the wisdom, if any, involved in the president not funding the missile defense system? It would seem like the most logical thing that we could do in a world that's unsafe. And there are many people who can very inexpensively now get into the bad business of sending rockets. It's 33 minutes from any point in the world to any place in the United States by a missile. So what do you think about that?
I think I know what you think. Yeah. And I agree with you, actually. Based on how your question was asked, I think I can infer that you were unhappy with the decision to defund what was lampooned years ago as the Star Wars program. And Ronald Reagan, who was a visionary in so many ways, said, look, we need to guard against the threat of these intercontinental ballistic missiles raining down on the American people. So he took some action. He started to invest a whole lot of money. And we need to continue to spend some of our precious treasure on defending the American people against that very threat. So I absolutely agree with you, Larry. It's a dangerous world out there, more dangerous than I'm comfortable with. And now we can team up with other countries. And this is sometimes where alliances